This is breaking news. DeMeco Ryans has fired offensive coordinator Bobby Slowik just 2 years into their run together in Houston. They both came from the 49ers. Of course, DeMeco Ryans was the defensive coordinator. Bobby Slowik was their pass game coordinator. He brought Slowik over last year. Slowik got a lot of praise for the work he did with CJ Stroud. And at that point last year, the 49ers, the Kyle Shanahan offensive scheme was all the rage around the league. Cut to 2024, 2025. Those schemes haven't been doing so well. Bobby Slowik had a really bad year. CJ Stroud regressed. And rather than ride it out, DeMeco Ryans threw his offensive coordinator under the bus. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe DeMeco Ryans is under more heat than we realize, even though he won a playoff game. Or maybe he's just smart and realizes that Bobby Slowik isn't that good and that the 49ers, the Kyle Shanahan offensive system isn't necessarily the present and the future of the league. Maybe he's cutting bait, and it'd be interesting to see who he gets to replace Slowik. Is it going to be from the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan tree? I'm inclined to think he won't be. I think one of the key moves of the year for the Commanders when they brought in Dan Quinn was not to get an offensive coordinator from the Kyle Shanahan tree. They brought in Cliff Kingsbury, who is doing something different. And the thing about the Shanahan scheme is it's kind of been overexposed to the NFL. There's so many teams use it. So many teams know how to defend it. So Slowik's out, and that seems like a vote of, not a vote of no confidence, but a kind of a vote of no confidence in that scheme from someone who came from the 49ers. So that's a very interesting move. Also, one more thing that DeMeco Ryans did, and this kills me. You guys don't know about this, and maybe you don't care, but he also fired their offensive line coach. When he went to that franchise, Houston, 2 years ago, they had an offensive line coach, George Warhop, who's really, really good. He's been in the league since 1996. He's one of the few African-American offensive line coaches in the NFL, if not the only one. For long stretches in the NFL, he's been the only one. And he sticks around because he's really, really, really good, although he hasn't until recently been on a really good team with a really good coach that provided stability. So anyway, he was in Houston with Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith gets fired. DeMeco gets the job. Holds on to George Warhop for a few weeks, creating the impression that he's going to keep George Warhop. And then late in the hiring cycle, fires him. Brings in this other guy, which is a rough thing to do. As Niner fans know, Niners did it to Steve Wilkes. You fire a guy late in the cycle, chances are he's not getting another job that year. So Warhop had to sweat it out. It wasn't in the league 2024. You never know if you're going to get back in. It's a tight-knit, small fraternity. Gets hired by, that was 2023, he wasn't in the league. 2024, gets hired by the Ravens. Now, finally, Warhop's in a great organization with a coach who has job security, and he's can actually put roots into Baltimore, and that team's doing really well because for one of the reasons, they have a really good offensive line coach who DeMeco Ryans just served up to him. And now DeMeco has fired the offensive line coach that he brought in to replace George Warhop, who's better than this guy. And the reason he brought in this offensive line coach is because he's a scheme fit with Bobby Slowik, who is just gotten fired. So young aspiring coaches out there, don't just fire good, experienced, veteran coaches simply because you don't know them or they haven't been as exposed to your scheme, whatever scheme it is, because schemes are kind of like fads. They come and go, and you never know when you'll be firing your scheme coach. For DeMeco, it was after 2 years. I also think it's interesting that Robert Saleh did the same thing. He fired his offensive coordinator that he got from the 49ers after 2 years, Mike LaFleur, with the Jets. So it's interesting. It's possible that that DeMeco Ryans and Robert Saleh's first tenures as head coaches could both be failures because they picked the wrong offensive scheme, because they thought that bringing in a Kyle Shanahan knockoff would be the key to success. It wasn't for Saleh. He had to pivot to Nathaniel Hackett, who's worse. And now DeMeco Ryans, it's going to be interesting to see who he pivots to. So DeMeco, I didn't realize he was on thin ice, but it seems like he is. If you have a quarterback like CJ Stroud, you don't get as much credit for exceeding expectations because you're not exceeding expectations. You won one playoff game, great. You have CJ Stroud. You're supposed to do better. and your offense stunk all season. He wasn't that good. So a lot of pressure on D'Amico Ryans, more pressure on him than on Kyle Shanahan for some reason. Joseph for real says can't join because personal goals. It is a Friday. But here's almost $10 to holla. My last name is Stockbridge. So even if Salah is a temporary bridge, may his impact leave a Golden Gate impression on Kyle. Joseph for real, thank you very much. I appreciate your donation. Chris V says, it's my B-day today. I turned 25. Sing me a song, bro. Happy birthday, Chris V. Happy birthday. What'd you think? Did you like it? Was the song good?